Hey everyone, welcome to episode 22 of Learning Outside the Lines with Kyle and Glenn, or Glenn and Kyle. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It never will.
No, it won't. It won't. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. It's so funny. So this episode is one that's kind of near and dear, I think, to both of our hearts. Not only because of the guests that we're going to have, but also because of this happens to kind of coalesce around what I call my D&D weekend, where I get to play in two different campaigns. You're in one of them, of course.
Yeah.
That we'll be playing on Friday, and then I do another one on Sunday. So that's kind of my opening anecdote. Even is just I'm just kind of excited about that. Now, my wife less excited because again, this is a time-consuming effort.
No,
but,
it is.
but she's really wonderful about letting me play.
Yeah, if you guys haven't figured out yet by watching us, Dr. Jones and I are pretty big nerds. So we play the Dungeons and Dragons. It's one of the things that we've really connected on. I'm not going to get into trying to justify it as some of the best narrative storytelling you'll ever have and all those standards that could have. But anyway, we're not going to do that. But we are going to talk today with actually one of my students, Robert Milby, who helped put together a Dungeons and Dragons campaign in our mythology class. So he was able to build that from scratch. I know, right? So crazy. Like, talk about a dream come true. And, yes, we had to do it during digital learning. Yes, that definitely affected things. But it was also something that, like I was just saying, is probably one of the best things to come out of digital learning. One of the best experiences I've ever had as a classroom teacher to date, regardless. And so really excited to talk to him about that. And I'm mostly excited because he built it. So it was something that, I feel like I helped empower him to do, or gave him the space. He was already empowered. He already had all the skills, but I gave him the space to kind of create that. And, but we'll get more into that in a bit. My little anecdote is actually this is what I'm thankful for today, Kyle. That's my house, and that's a tree. It looks like two trees. It's really one tree. It's about a 60-foot pine tree. But this fell yesterday, like last night at about 10 o'clock. I was playing Animal Crossing as one does, and I hear a crack and a whoosh. And I hear the branches of the tree literally go down the wall on the other side. Oh, sorry, cuteness sandwich monster there. But there's the tree, and here's a different view. That's how far it came up the backyard. But yeah, I could hear the branches go down the wall. So that was fun. That was good. But we're okay. And honestly, I'm gonna have some great opportunities to talk to you about what it's like to use a chainsaw here in a couple days. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, no, I was lucky. My dad came out a couple of probably two summers ago, like at the beginning of spring to summer, and we actually took down a lot of dead trees that were in my backyard or just past my fence, and that has saved us, I think, a little bit of grief. There's another one or two that really need to be taken down that we haven't yet. So I would suggest the same, sir. When you get chainsaw, go ahead and take care of a couple of the other ones that are looking they're not too healthy.
I'm going to invest in a big old axe. I'm talking like a huge axe. I'm going to get some metal rebar, and I'm going to put them in the ground to make a place for logs. And I'm going to go crazy. That's going to be my workout for probably a couple months. It's just chopping wood. Just seriously getting into some chopping wood. Yeah.
Wait, I mean, seriously, glad that you and the family are okay. Glad the house is okay, that you don't have to deal with any of that. I mean, those are huge. Nothing to make you want to make sure that your insurance on your house is good to go than an incident like that,
Yeah, no, good times.
All right. Well, hey, let's kind of jump into it. So today's going to be a little bit different because we're kind of combining the digital hack with going into talking with Robert. So we'll kind of get into that because they're connected. We're going to kind of talk about how we use digital space, or he used digital space to build this thing and then actually do the campaign literally yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was yesterday we did it. So before we bring him on, let me just show a little bit about what we did. This was actually a folder that he built himself in Drive and shared with me. And we'll talk about this here in a little bit, but kind of the digital teaching hack, I guess, can just be talking about the fact that when we give students tools, teach them how to use them, and then are available to, I don't know, give assignments that are more than just grades, magic can happen. So yes, Robert is definitely going to get an A for the semester. But like, he didn't do this for a grade. This wasn't something that Robert made because he wanted to, he was given a task, an assignment, and he was checking off boxes. This was something he did at a passion, and for the class, because I'll let him talk about his whys, but this is something that students can do if we just give students space. We stop just giving grades for things, and honestly give students a space to bring in their identities, like who they are, into the classroom. And a little bit of backstory with mythology, I knew that my students love Dungeons and Dragons. That's something we established in the first week. I couldn't have done this assignment last year in mythology. I didn't have enough D&D players. But something magical happened, the stars aligned, and I ended up with probably 20 out of the 30 students in that classroom had played Dungeons and Dragons before.
Wow.
Yeah. And God's helped the ones that hadn't played. I think a couple of them had a really interesting semester. I actually talked to one of them today. She was like, "That was the most interesting class I've ever taken. Thank you." But so it just worked out. But building relationships, figuring out who your students are, figuring out a way to bring those passions into the classroom, and then kind of giving them space to do that, I think is the recipe. So without further ado, though, I would like to bring in Robert for the good word.
Hello.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Robert.
Hi,
How are you, man?
Robert. I'm doing okay.
Awesome.
Thank you
It's
for
good.
joining us.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Very good to see you. So
Good to see
talk
you
with
too.
us just a little bit, first, why do this? Why create a 50-page Dungeons and Dragons campaign for your mythology class?
Well, you mentioned that you were thinking of different ideas that you could do for a raid, and a couple ideas were thrown around, and one of the ones that I had was, hey, let's do something Dungeons and Dragons. And I've had plenty of experience building things, because not with just Dungeons and Dragons. I go to LARP, and at the LARP I do write stuff for the people there, and so I'm used to building things stories wise, characters. So it was something that I'm passionate about, and I had a lot of fun with it.
That's cool. That's cool. And would you normally expect to be able to do this kind of stuff in the classroom? How is that a little bit different?
Most classrooms, honestly, I would say you can't pull this off in, because it's hard to incorporate a lot of subjects with this. History and mythology are two really good subjects you can do it with. I've been thinking about some ways you can incorporate math and science in it. Language arts is still stumping me. This
Okay.
project really got me thinking, so.
Okay. And you even shared, you said something that really blew me away a couple days ago. You said that this had maybe even got you thinking about becoming a teacher.
Yes, this when I was going through this, it was like I said, this sparked a couple ideas. I was thinking, how could I incorporate this into other classrooms? How could I do this for math class? How could I do this for a history class? Because while I was making this, I wanted to have it fun, but still incorporate a lot of the mythology into it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And so, I mean, I think your exact words are, as long as you could, what was it? Something about, do you remember exactly what you said?
I think it was, as long as the environment, as long as the system allowed me to do it, I could pull something like this off.
Okay.
So if the school system said, hey, we're okay with you doing not the standard, here's all the typical, you have to follow these guidelines, 10 tests, 12 assignments, or something like that. If I could have the freedom to pull something like this off, because I know not all counties are like that. There are counties out there where you have to have 5 tests through the year. You have to have 12 assignments. Luckily, Gwinnett County let us pull this off.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, just having electives, the fact that it was an elective definitely helped. But I think you're right. I think this would be a great project to do in a social studies class. And I mean, to kind of give that a little more framework, one of the questions I wanted to ask you was like, how has the mythology, how did that kind of help you shape what you built for this Dungeons and Dragons campaign?
Having the subject really did actually help quite a bit. I got to think of, okay, what is the world scenario I want? Okay, what is the premise? So the different deities. First one that came to mind was Ra, and I was tempted between Osiris and Anubis. I went with Osiris since it was one that we've been going through a lot of in the class. And so I just did Ra and Osiris for the 2 that I had. If we were in the classroom and had everybody there, I could have probably done more for each of the deities, and having the deity helps me flesh out a lot of the details because I can only do so much with no subject.
Yeah. So it does take content, definitely. But you were able to incorporate a lot of content into kind of the experience for students. So how do you think it went yesterday?
I would say there were, it went pretty well overall. There were some things that I wish I had clarified beforehand, especially for the people who've played D&D before. Been like, hey, a lot of people are new, so let's not try to do everything at once. But
yeah,
that's the one downside of the whole thing was since it was done digitally, we had to go with who we had.
Mm-hmm.
And like if we were in the classroom, we could have separated the people who've never played D&D before and people who had. And those people who had played D&D before, could have done a lot of different things. People who haven't could stuck to the bare bones system I made.
So you're literally. Oh, sorry.
Well, hold on. Robert, I got to ask this question, man. It's so funny. You've said a couple of things now, which has triggered my teacher sense in a really strong way.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you even have a bone in your body that would want to be a teacher one day. But one of the things you get that is so important about a classroom space is flexibility with a concentration on content. The content doesn't go away, but at the same time, you build special things around it. The standard can be your friend, but you've got to build that flex space in it. And then to meet the needs of students, literally what you just described was differentiation, which is the fancy word we use in education to talk about where students are in ability level, comfort level, whatever it might be in a classroom. So you got a skill set here and a skill set here. You were able to put and differentiate for those folks. And you're just addressing like couldn't really do that in this virtual space. Yeah. But had you been face to face, you would have absolutely taken the time to do that. That's like I said, my teacher sense was tingling. It was it was funny.
No, definitely. And I mean, also talking about the reflectiveness too of what you just said there. There's that's something that I would love to work with teachers on, just kind of trying to build that reflective nature. Because it's hard, right? It's hard for a lot of folks. Human beings are not naturally reflective creatures, but what you're doing there is describing like what you would do differently the next time around. And I think as long as we try to work with that framework, that I think we become great teachers like naturally, and we become great humans naturally too. But yeah, that's real good stuff, man. So. Just another question. I know you kind of talked about how it was different with DLD. How do you think that the shift to DLD has affected our mythology class?
I would say that one of the things that I really enjoyed in the classroom was the face-to-face time we got with you. We've kind of coped back with that with the Zoom meetings, but the FaceTime we got to have with you to do the different assignments, to have the fun little crafts, because sure, we can take a photo of the craft and upload it to eClass, but that's not the same as seeing the craft.
Yeah.
Sure, I can record a video of me setting up a fancy little thing, but how cool would it be for me to do that in the classroom?
Yeah. No.
or some of like the other kids' projects, they had some really cool stuff. Not the best with DLD,
Yeah.
and especially for a class like this, it's made it not as creative flowing.
I agree. It's been hard. It's been hard. But you're one of the I think I shared about your leprechaun trap that you made in Minecraft already. So I think this might be like technically your second time being featured on the vlog now. Because you were still able to pull some stuff off, but you're right. Like I remember when you dressed up as a fairy hunter, like in full costume.
Yeah, my character from LARP. Yeah.
Yeah, but you were able to incorporate it into the classroom, and it totally worked. And I mean, you just don't get that experience. Like I'll never forget like the shock value, like the sound of the oxygen being sucked into everyone's lungs when they were like, oh, like when you walked in with the mask, and like that was a cool effect. It was really shocking. It definitely pushed people out of their comfort zones, and it's hard to do that in DLD. Like it's really hard. So yeah, but what do you think have been some successes as far as your DLD experience in general so far? I'm thinking maybe just beyond mythology class, thinking about your other classes too. Has anything good come out of DLD for you?
Well, couple things is I know that nowadays teachers are trying to incorporate more technology in to their classrooms. This has really helped step that forward. I've seen a lot of teachers go from just putting the assignment on e-class and saying, oh, do whatever you want with it. I've had a couple of teachers saying, hey, let's use Google to the full extent we can. So they uploaded it to a Google Drive, shared it with every student. Here you go. Make a copy, share it with me once you're done. And honestly, that helps stop cheating a little bit. I know that not many people still do that, but you can still see, hey, this person copied it and then did it.
Yeah. And that's cool. Yeah. Adaptability.
I also do enjoy, personally, I do kind of like the fact that you really do see who cares about each of the classes. Like you see the students who are striving more in this DLD environment. A lot of teachers are struggling to get their students motivated, and like you're one of those teachers who you have a really cool class, so you have more kids motivated to go do it. But like some of the math classes, they don't, like they're, especially in the DLD, they're kind of bare bones, and I feel bad for them.
Yeah,
Well, we talked in the past, right, about part of this is about relationships too. Like Mr. Rhodes has clearly built a really strong relationship with you and the kids in the mythology class. You want to do work with Mr. Rhodes because you know it'll be worth your time. It's engaging. It's interesting. Yeah. Plus, again, he's fully lets you tap into your own interests clearly with pursuing doing the D&D campaign with the Egyptian mythology. And I think that's some of the reality of what some teachers are facing right now. If they're really struggling to get more kids to engage in the online work, it might be a symptom of what the relationships were like in the classroom. And I say that because I want to follow up, Robert, by asking, is that assumption on my part pretty accurate? Do you feel like what I'm saying is true?
Yeah, a little bit. I would say, yeah.
Well, I mean, so when you say a little bit, like what's kind of the caveat you would add to that, right? So what's the, like, yeah, you're right, but there's also this factor.
There's a couple students I know who they really love one of their classes, but they have a computer, but it doesn't let them do much, and they can't engage fully with their classes like they would want to. So the little caveat there is technology limitations, because not everybody has the same situation.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And probably one of the hardest parts about, I think, our job right now is trying to figure out like the why a student isn't doing something and like the reason behind it. Because I mean that is important, right? If a student has the tools and chooses not to do the work, is that different than a student who doesn't have the tools? Like when we start talking about grades again here at the end of the semester, that's one of the things that I have to struggle with too. Thankfully Gwinnett's put some great policies into place. But I mean, we're just never really going to know the why for a lot of students, and we're just not ever going to know. So I think that if we lead with care, we lead with that heart. You're laughing, Kyle.
No, you're right. I mean, and so like Robert, I think what you're going to find shocking here is the reality is even Mr. Rhodes has struggled to get some kids to engage, whether it's mythology or it's his 10th grade classes, for reasons like you said, could be tech related. But he's also told me the story about like I've called this kid and their parents a dozen times, and I just can't get them to move. And sometimes that is also just the reality of you can build whatever relationship you want and still put that care foot forward, and you may not get the response that you want back. But that's not what care is about. We talk about care as an educator. You don't expect anything back. Yep. You hope you get something back, but you don't expect it. It's that unconditional care that you should have for your students. And I'm going to step off my pedestal because I'm about to go off on something, and I don't need to do that right now.
Oh, no, I completely get it. It's one of the things that the more like, so like I said, this has gotten me looking into like, how could I incorporate this into the classroom? And then I started thinking, what happens if I do become a teacher? And so I started thinking, okay, what are some of the things that will go wrong? And students not caring was one of the big things that popped in my head. And you can try your hardest, but you won't always get things back.
Yep.
One of the things I've been actually struggling with, yes, I did write this 50-page thing, but most of it is actually pictures, so you can't really call it 50 pages.
Whatever. Yeah.
But anyway, I've actually had to shut my phone off, put it on the other side of my desk so I don't touch it, just to get some of my other classes things done.
Yeah.
Like earlier today, I shut it down, put it over there, and was doing a 30 slide PowerPoint and off of a 50 page report.
Yeah.
And while the topic was somewhat interesting, it was still the motivation to do it was
yeah. Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I love, but yeah, no, I get it. And I'm glad that you were able to put this together. Hopefully it didn't distract you too much from your other classes, but
no.
Well, and here's something to think about too. I mean, you're starting to develop a skill set here where I would even encourage you. There's almost an entrepreneurial piece here for you where there's a space and even a need for the development of things like this in the I keep calling it the edu-sphere, but like just the world of education, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things as you enter college or what you're kind of doing in your next level of things of life, these are things you could be building and providing, or creating or really taking and refining what you just did and turn it into something that's really splashy and engaging that other teachers would want to snatch up in a second. Because like you said, it's language arts, it's mythology, it's social studies to some degree. There's a chance you could incorporate things like science and math in it if you kind of thought through parts of that.
Yeah, puzzles. Some of the puzzles.
Yep.
Oh my God.
And then I think about like even the ability to level this to like an elementary version all the way up to a high school version, So
I was actually one of the things I was thinking was making a whole class, like it's an elective, but it can also like count for a social studies credit. It's some sort of history. And you start off with one of the base characters, but the more you do, Mr. Rhodes actually suggests this when we first making the idea of how you can level up your characters. So you don't have just the base bone characters, you can level up your characters, have like little class trees, and that will actually help the students engage because it creates customization, which people do love.
Yeah. Gamification.
Yep.
People do their whole doctorates on stuff like this. But I think where you really have the edge is your experiences, your authentic experiences, but also if you're already able to kind of walk between the worlds like you're doing right now, where you're able to wear different hats. Like I'm thinking like a teacher. I'm thinking like a student. I'm thinking like, you're able to kind of
dungeon master.
Yeah, dungeon master. Yeah, you're able to compartmentalize everything. And like a researcher, yeah, they might be able to learn a lot about Dungeons and Dragons, but they're not really going to always have that authentic perspective. So yeah, I fully encourage you, man. Seriously, that's cool.
Well, we're probably kind of up against it on time.
Yeah.
And Robert, thank you so much. I mean, just really engaging, and really best of luck to you as you move on to the next level of life. I chose level on purpose, right? So I hope everybody kind of caught that. Wink, wink, nod, nod. But we really appreciate you being on with us. It was great. So we always do a quick outro piece, and so you're welcome just to kind of stick with us for a moment. But the outro that I wanted to share today actually comes from an organization that is near and dear to me and Glenn's heart, which is GCTE, the Georgia Council of Teachers of English. We talked a little bit about it before, I think, on previous episodes. But one of the things that we both have contributed to in the past is their Scribbles and Bits newsletter that they put out on a quarterly basis, right? And so if you've been watching the show and paying attention to what we've been doing, early on we had Dr. Dale join us. She's a Kennesaw State assistant professor over English education, and so she is a big part of the GCTE organization. And one of the things in the most recent is she talks about just advising on remote learning. In the episode with her, she really stressed this idea of there's a difference between online learning and remote learning, and she's doing that in this article too. But what I really wanted to kind of share with everybody in the outro, especially for our teachers out there, and she just has really good, strong advice here in her bolded points, right? Content should always be prioritized over digital tools. The tool is nice, but the tool can also bog down the process of learning. And so that's one of the things that I think she really nails on the head, and that we can all get caught up in. It's like, well, I'm going to use a Padlet, and then I'm going to use this Google app, and then I'm going to use, and we're going to try to do all of this in 20 minutes. No, you're going to drive the student crazy. You're going to drive yourself crazy, and then you're going to be mad that the student couldn't navigate it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's about simplification, about being content first. And again, Robert, to pull you back into this, you emphasized that yourself, that you were able to take content, right, the mythology that you were learning, and that's even why you chose one of the gods you chose, is because you had the content ready to go. So content comes first. You will not be able to exactly replicate your face-to-face instructions, so do not try. It's pulling that monkey off of the teacher's back, right? Like, stop trying to replicate what you could do face-to-face, because you can't. You control what you can control in the digital environment. Discussion boards are our most direct way to accomplish this sort of engagement and evidence of thinking online, but they lose the robust dialogue, enthusiasm, and real-time discussion. And Robert, you spoke to that too, man. One of the first things you said is like, well, I missed the face-to-face interaction just with my peers and with Mr. Rhodes. You can't replace that. Point 3 here, you can build community online. We talked a little bit about how we put care first and foremost in the way that we teach and the way we should teach. And this is the same sort of thing. If you keep trying to build community and bringing space for people to come together, like this D&D campaign, it was optional. Mm-hmm. Not the whole class didn't have to show up. People could show up. Some people chose to show up, but you're building a community that wanted to come together in that moment. And there'll be other ways to do things like that too. And then 4, regular communication is especially important online. So this is one of the things that I really admire about Mr. Rhodes. One of the things that I know he's doing on a regular basis is communicating with you all and with all his students. You're hearing from him regularly. He's creating these videos. He's posting things. You know that he cares, and you know that he's there and he's online waiting for you. And I know we can't say that about all of our teachers, but a lot of teachers are working that hard right now to make their presence known. Definitely. And then finally, the last couple of points that she makes here: do not assume that because our students have grown up in a digital age, they are comfortable learning online. I'm not comfortable learning online half the time, right? When I pursued my doctorate, I specifically chose a program where I did most of it face-to-face. And not because I was scared of online tools, but because it's not nearly as engaging or relational building as face-to-face opportunities are. We're social creatures. We want to be near each other. You know?
Classroom's a creative space, and being in it's a powerful thing. It's right. Hard, We can't go into people's houses and set up classrooms. We've got to trust them to do that, and that's hard.
And I think some of our teacher friends out there are missing the point of point 6 here, with remember the issues of equity and access matter. I know that there's some blinders on sometimes by educators of like, well, they should have, or they should know better, or there should be this, there should be that. You can say that about if the world was normal right now. But that doesn't change the fact that people child or otherwise, are human, and there's always going to be a human factor in things that we're not going to fully understand. So equity and access is still going to be an issue here for everybody. Even the people who have like all the tools. We talked about it earlier in this episode, right? Like you can have the kid who has the tool that's not motivated, and you can have the kid who's motivated that doesn't have the tool.
Or is going through an existential crisis right now, mental health problems, family issues, like so many other things are at play. And I mean, that creates a lack of equity also. Like they're not able to access a safe space, either maybe inside or even in their home. Like they might have the tools, but yeah, problems.
And then last but not least, she just talks about showing students and yourself grace through all of this, which is also a paramount way that we've got to live life in general, but certainly when we're in a stressful environment like we are right now. And there are days that are less stressful than others. There have been really nice things about this working from home or learning from home that I think all of us are enjoying, but it doesn't change the fact that this is also a very real, global, scary event that is happening as well, and we're all trying to figure it out. So it's okay that you didn't get that one or two things right. It's okay that maybe you didn't show quite up on time like you said you would. It's okay that you had to cancel. It's okay that you had to do. You just have to let yourself have that moment to yourself, and especially extend that to your students.
Let it go.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is a lot from us. We had a great episode. Robert, thank you again so much for joining us. You were amazing.
Thank you for having me.
Best of luck to you. Again, and those of you that continue to follow us, you can find me on Twitter at the Prof Jones.
Yep, and I'm at gchant668.
And continue to watch what we're doing. And just as a reminder, we're now putting these episodes up as podcasts that you can find on Spotify under Learning Outside the Lines as well.
Woo!
Slowly but surely trickling up, uploading them, but it's happening.
That's cool. Yeah. We'll see you guys.
All right.
Bye.